Hello everyone, it's Andrea and welcome to this edition of Talks in the Car. There is a story that amongst a few others that I particularly enjoy. This particular story in the Word of God for me is very, very encouraging. And as I was thinking about it earlier this morning, there were some aspects of the story that God dropped in my spirit that I wanted to be able to share with you. So the story is about the woman who was caught in adultery. So in other words, she wasn't married to the gentleman, and she was engaging in various aspects of intimacy with these men, and she was called out by some of the leaders of the time and brought before Jesus because she was in the middle of this adultery. Now, the interesting part about this story is that in order to be caught in adultery is a two-person activity. It can't be just one. You can't be caught in adultery by yourself. But the interesting part is that while there was two people involved in this indecency, only she was called before the leaders. And as she was being called before the leaders, they said to Jesus, she was caught in the middle of adultery, and basically saying, what are you going to do about it? What do you say about it? Now, back in those times, if there was an adulterous situation, there was a stoning. And more often than not, it was the woman who was going to be stoned. The woman was the one who was not highly valued. The woman was the one who was indispensable. The woman back in those days basically had one job, and that one job was to bring that man a child. And to be more specific, it was to bring that man and to give that man a son. And so her role was pretty much indispensable. If she didn't produce that son, that child, then she was shamed. She brought shame upon the family. She brought shame upon the bloodline. She was not thought of highly. Her skills as far as taking care of family, her skills as raising children. In fact, they weren't even her children. They were his children. And so she was very low on the totem pole. And so with that being said, she's brought before the priests. She's brought before the people, and she's brought before Jesus, and he's asked. Now, this is a two-part, because one of the reasons why she was brought before Jesus was to see what he was going to do. The leaders were trying to get him. They were trying to trip him up. They were trying to make a situation where they could now accuse him of being against the law. And so as they brought her before Jesus, they said, look, Jesus, this woman has been caught doing some things that she's not supposed to do. What is your position? And Jesus took his time. He didn't just jump right in and go to preaching and go to tearing them down. He sat on the ground, drew in the sand, and finally he says these profound words. He who is without sin cast the first stone. In other words, if you think that you have yourself together, if you don't sin, if you are perfect, go ahead and you cast that stone at her. And subsequently with that story, they all left. The stones were dropped because they were ready. They had the stones in their hands. They were ready to fulfill what the law said, to stone this woman. But because they realized what Jesus said was accurate, if you're without sin, go ahead, stone her. They knew they could not say that they were sinless. They knew they could not proclaim that they were perfect, because only God is perfect, and only God, they would say, was perfect. And so they all walked away from the situation, and they were defeated because God called them out. And God reminded them that They too are sinful people. And then he went back to the woman and he said to her, where are your accusers? Where are the people who wanted to stone you? And in looking around, they're not there. He says to her, okay, go your way and stop. Basically, he was like, you have been given another opportunity. You have been given the chance to get your life together. You have been given the chance to turn over a new leaf and to do what you know is correct in the eyes of God. Go ahead and do that. And the lesson that is so beautiful in there is that, like I said, back in those times, the women in the Bible were not thought of very highly. They were at the bottom of the totem pole. Their only job was to produce children. They were not given respect. They were not given honor. They could be treated anyway, and it was fine. And what does that say about how Jesus treats us? What does that say about how we can expect the love of God to come across? We all have been at the bottom. We all have been treated in certain ways. We all have experienced being at our lowest point. But even when we are at the bottom of the barrel, even when we are not highly regarded, even when others are disrespectful to us, even when others try to set us up, even when others bring about accusations about us and to us and share that with other people with the intent of bringing us down, God still reaches down and gives us pardon. He still reaches down and brings us up, brings us to a place where we can find recovery, where we can find peace, where we can make restitution, where we can change our direction and follow him. And it's such a beautiful story when everybody else was against her. Even though they were about trying to trip Jesus up, they were using her and her situation as the sacrifice. Because if you really think about it, how did they know she was there? First of all. Second of all, you wouldn't necessarily know they were there unless at some point you had been there yourself. And so they knew where to find her. They knew what was going on. It was a setup. But in the midst of the setup, God said, there is nothing too bad. There is no place too low. There is nothing that you can do that I will not come to your rescue, that I will not pick you up, that I will not embrace you, that I will not give you another opportunity to get things right, that I will not give you and grant you mercy. So I want to encourage you all on today to be reminded that even at your lowest point, even when it seems as if there's no place for you to go, that you can be redeemed, that you can find restitution in God, that God is willing and he is able to pick you up, to build you up, to bring you to a place of change, to bring you to a place where you can find peace, where you can find change, where you can turn to a different direction and be what God is calling you to be. You don't have to stay where you are. You can be in another place. You can find yourself receiving the forgiveness of God. And so don't ever allow anybody to put you in a place of condemnation. Don't let anybody be able to put you in a place where you cannot be restored, where you feel like your life cannot change. God is able to forgive. God is able to change. God is able to bring you to a place where what you used to be, you no longer have to be. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. And we will see you next time on Talks in the Car.